All right, Facebook Live. We'll get this thing cranked up in a moment. A lot to discuss tonight. We've got the risk of strong to severe thunderstorms unfolding tomorrow night. Then we've got strong wind happening during the day tomorrow. So a lot to kind of unpack here. I'll walk you through the graphics. I'll pop on the camera in just a moment and sort of walk you through what's happening. So if you haven't heard, Wednesday night we've declared it a first alert weather day for the risk of damaging wind and potentially even some tornadoes. And I'm seeing some new data in the overnight computer models that leads me to believe we're probably going to deal with some tornado risk down into parts of southwest Alabama. So that's a concern that we'll have to kind of keep an eye on. So with no further ado, let's dive into the maps here. Here is the satellite imagery. You see the storm system that's going to give us these problems, pinwheeling away here up over the Great Plains. Obviously, we're not in the Great Plains, but the upper trough will dig on in here and bring us a risk of scattered tornadoes and damaging wind across most of the state. Now, this is already causing some problems. Check this out. Here is the radar from Kansas into northern Missouri. You'll notice a little bow echo there, east of St. Joseph, Missouri, north of downtown Kansas City. Multiple severe thunderstorm warnings up and down that line. And that's the kind of thing we're unfortunately going to end up dealing with here as this whole mess slides its way towards the east pretty steadily. So timing on this, and I've got all sorts of maps that we'll get to in a moment here. The timing on this is primarily in the nighttime. So this will be a nighttime event for us. And I know you are just as excited about that as I am. These nighttime events are no fun. Unfortunately, that's the timing here. We think around 7 o'clock tomorrow night through about 7 o'clock Thursday morning. So overnight. Now, I've got a map coming up I'm going to share with you in a few moments with all the specifics that you could ever want and need. We'll go county by county with that whole risk area. So hang with me for a minute. We'll get those maps up on the board for you, and we'll be able to kind of walk you through what we're expecting. So the tornado threat, I think, is maximized, as I've mentioned here, southwest Alabama. That's really the chief area of concern here within this system. Damaging wind for the rest of the area. And let me just say this up front. When we say damaging wind, I think there's the potential here for some big-time wind gusts, 70, 75, 80 miles per hour within these storms. We've already seen a little bit of that unfolding to our northwest. This is a very deep and dynamic storm system, so it's going to really wind up, and when it comes through, the upper air winds are going to be blowing in the 70 to 80 mile per hour range, and thunderstorms kind of act like a duct. You know, you have air conditioning ducts in your home to move that air up and down. Same concept here, unfortunately. So these thunderstorm cores can serve as ducts and get that strong wind aloft to pop back down to the ground. So that's the kind of situation that we're looking at here with this very deep dynamic storm system that's going to sweep in here. Now, the good news, this clears out pretty early Thursday morning. By the time we get to lunchtime Thursday, the situation across the state improves considerably, and the weather is much, much nicer by Thursday afternoon. Friday looks good, too, and things will improve very rapidly as this whole situation ends there for us Thursday around lunchtime or so. So that's kind of the view from 1,000 feet here. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to dive into these maps and do more analysis. For now, we're kind of just watching what's happening right now out in the Great Plains. You've got storms, even a tornado warning there east of St. Joseph. That's in northern Missouri. No tornado warnings for us. In fact, radar is crystal clear across Alabama tonight. It's very nice. The wind is going to die down tonight, but that wind is going to crank back up in a huge way once we get into the day tomorrow. That's when that wind will really become noticeable. And a note about tomorrow's wind, even away from thunderstorms on Wednesday, we could very well have enough wind to cause wind damage and power outages. Now, nothing widespread, but isolated problem areas could very easily develop across the state tomorrow. So that's something to watch. Now, the other thing to watch. So damaging wind away from thunderstorms. So trees blown down, power outages during the day Wednesday. Then Wednesday night, as this comes through, the risk of storms begins to crank up. Let me take you to the maps here So this is our storm timing map. 7 o'clock to midnight, West Alabama. 9 o'clock to 3 in the morning, kind of central and middle sections of the state. And then we go 2 to 7 a.m. down in East and Southeast Alabama. This is the latest map that we've got going on this. I don't see any reason to change it based on the updated computer model guidance that we're watching coming in tonight. This looks like, quite frankly, kind of par for the course. This is what we expect to have happen in these sorts of scenarios. So we'll do the picture-in-picture here so we can talk, you and I, at the same time. Now, lots of questions streaming in here, so I'll do my best to get to those. If they are questions about specific communities and towns, I'm just about to answer those. Then from there, we'll walk back through and see what else we've got going on. So, what about the whatabouts? Let's talk about this. Here you go. So I'm going to clear out the screen so that you can see all of this in all of its glory. So these are our estimates on kind of the maximum storm impact window for each specific county in our area. Now, if you want, this map is already up on my Facebook page. So if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, just head over to Facebook, Josh Johnson WSFA there, and you can get that map and that information there on the Facebook page. But I'm going to leave it up for a little while here anyway, because quite frankly, I think it serves you pretty well. This is by far the number one question we get is what is the timing on all of this? So there you have it for Autauga County in the river region. This looks sort of like a maybe just before midnight deal, 9, 10, 11 p.m. around Autauga County, closer to midnight-ish around Montgomery County, Pike County, probably midnight and just after. Down into Lee County, 2 to 6 a.m., you see that there. So for those of you who are not map savvy, we've got this to sort of help walk you through what to expect, town by town. What are the threat levels? Here you go. We call it a high risk. Storm Prediction Center, they word it as moderate. I can tell you this is a fairly robust threat of damaging wind and tornadoes. And some of these tornadoes could be EF2, EF3 type tornadoes. And another word of caution, they'll be moving really fast. So when we're tracking these tomorrow night, we may not be able to give you as much warning as we'd like because these tornadoes, they're going to be moving northeast at 55, 60, maybe 65 or 70 miles an hour in those most rapid storm cores. So these things are going to be hauling. So it's going to be a little trickier to keep you ahead of this. You can help by obviously kind of staying weather aware. Now, the other thing we've got to talk about here is the risk of wind damage within this is not like a typical system. This is not your typical system where we talk about wind damage, but what we really mean is a really tiny area. This could be one that produces some fairly large pockets of straight line wind damage, 75, 80 mile per hour winds in these storms. So it is really important that you pay attention to severe thunderstorm warnings tomorrow. And I'll say up front, we are going to treat, if we see anything on radar, we may interrupt programming and go live continuously even for severe thunderstorm warnings tomorrow, because this is the kind of day that can create some pretty big straight line wind damage. All right, so back to this map. This is the latest run. This is new data, the high-res rapid refresh model. So I'll walk you through it kind of hour by hour here. So this is 20Z. That is 3 in the afternoon. It's all back in Mississippi. So again, to kind of make that same point again, if you're looking for storms during the day tomorrow, you're not going to find them in Alabama. The storms don't arrive in our state until after dark, most likely, and even there, it's way over in West Alabama initially. So back to the map. So pop-up storms ahead of the main line, if these form, they could be problematic. I think there's a decent chance they don't form, though. So we'll watch, wait, and see what happens there. Okay, here's 7 o'clock in the evening. So you've got a very intense line of thunderstorms running from about Muscle Shoals to Gordo to Meridian to New Orleans. Within this, there could be damaging straight-line wind gusts and the possibility of tornadoes as well. So here is 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So a couple of things we've got to stop and point out to you here on this map. I'm going to make it bigger because I want you to see it, what I'm talking about. See that right there? So that is the model itself, sort of hinting at the idea of a very intense embedded mesocyclone within this line of storms. Translation, this could produce a tornado. And I've noticed a little trend in the data here. The NAM tonight, that's a different model, shows essentially the same thing, just a little south of there. So I've got to give a special little first alert here. I really need you on your toes tomorrow. Washington County, Choctaw County, Sumter County, Marengo County, Clark County, Wilcox County, Monroe County, Conecuh County, Crenshaw County, Covington County, Butler County. That's the part of the state that I think has the greatest chance of seeing a tornado or two, and perhaps EF2 or greater type tornado. So again, that's southwest Alabama that has that kind of higher level of concern. So what happens next? Well, the line keeps on trucking. You'll notice here, we get out to midnight. The line now runs from about Auburn back down towards Andalusia. Then on into East Alabama we go. Here's 3 in the morning. This is down in the Wiregrass now. And by the time the sun comes up, here's 6 a.m., this is all gone. So how about that? This gets in quick, but it gets out quick too. Now, why are we so concerned about damaging straight line wind gusts? Let me show you the raw data behind that threat. So again, same model here. This is the high-res rapid refresh, and it is suggesting winds of 70 to 75 knots, 4,000 to 5,000 feet above the ground. Now, 72 knots ends up being about 80 miles per hour. Now, some of that wind in these thunderstorm cores is going to mix down to the surface in areas. So that's the reason for the elevated level of concern with these damaging wind gusts, because all of the models, they're unanimous in this idea that the wind speeds just above the ground are going to be really, really fast. 70, 75, 80 miles an hour. So damaging wind for a lot of our area may be the biggest threat in this. And this is not your typical thunderstorm damaging wind setup. A lot of people do not take damaging straight line wind gusts seriously, and please don't make that mistake tomorrow. You need to take it seriously tomorrow. This is the kind of damaging straight line wind gust that can throw trees down, that can tip over mobile homes, that can damage siding on homes. And it will be, not everyone will get it, but it will be far more widespread than a classic thunderstorm situation. Usually when we have wind damage like that, it's a result of what's called a microburst, and it happens in a very small area. That will probably not be the case tomorrow night. So that's the reason for kind of the elevated level of concern here. Now, a couple of other things to go through with you here. The Storm Prediction Center. They are the best of the best when it comes to forecasting severe weather. It's literally what they do all day, every day. Here's their outlook. You'll notice big area of orange and red over Alabama. There it is. So this is for Wednesday night. Now, quite frankly, the thing that gets my attention the most is what they're saying in their discussion. And pardon me, I've got the hiccups, and it's a great time for that to happen. In their discussion, which I posted a clip of this on Facebook earlier, here it is, and I get it, this will be a big wall of text, you may not even be able to read it. But the idea here, a couple of quotes. All severe hazards are possible, including widespread damaging winds, some over 75 miles per hour, and several tornadoes, some of which could be strong EF2+. When they say that, they're talking about a regional outbreak of severe thunderstorms across the lower Mississippi Valley in the southeast. They specifically say Alabama in that. A couple of other excerpts from this that I find interesting. So The presence of strong winds aloft should enhance the prospects for significant severe wind gusts of 75 plus miles per hour at the surface within the most intense portions of the line Wednesday afternoon and evening. Now, this next line is important. Very favorable low-level shear will likely support low-level rotation. Several tornadoes should occur across the lower Mississippi Valley and southeast in this regime, with circulations moving quickly east-northeast. And they talk about the chance of the storm line becoming more broken in nature. And I'll try to zoom in on this so you can see it as well as possible. If this occurs, if the southern end of the line becomes more broken Wednesday night, then the threat for embedded supercells capable of producing multiple strong tornadoes would exist. At this point, the greatest tornado potential may focus along southern portions of the line in Mississippi and Alabama. You never like it when they call your name. And this is no exception. We do not like it when they call our names here. So that's one thing we've got to watch for. And I'll be honest with you, the latest computer model guidance here shows that exact scenario. See it here. So this is Wednesday evening at 9 o'clock. And it shows the southern end of that line becoming more broken, and that would suggest a fairly substantial tornado threat evolving into parts of west central Alabama. So that's the kind of the reason for concern in this from a tornado perspective. So I'll put the county map back up here. There you see it. Kind of small there, but understand the county map you're looking at right now, I've already posted it here on the Facebook page. So you already have access to that. Likelihood of large hail, not a big threat in this sort of situation. The most intense cores could produce some hail, but I don't think it's a huge concern. Is there a chance of a microburst happening? Yes, there is. That's the kind of one of the mechanisms that works that really strong thunderstorm air down to the Earth's surface. So we could have that. Alexander asks, could we have a PDS tornado watch, Josh, tomorrow? Alexander, that will depend on what happens back in Mississippi. I do think that's possible, particularly in west and southwest Alabama. I think it is possible that area could end up under a PDS tornado watch. We'll see. What about Columbiana or Calera area? You're right in this. The threat map extends up there as well. So no doubt about it, this would, and I'll make this full screen so you can take it all in. Extend this north one county, and that's what you're talking about. So Calera, Columbiana, risk of damaging wind tomorrow night. By the way, we are about 8 minutes away from the start of WSFA 12 News at 10. I do hope you will join us. We're going to go over all of this in great detail there on TV. You'll be able to see the maps as well. People asking you about North Alabama and Patrick Allen. Allen, do me a favor. Brad Travis, my buddy Brad. He works at WAFF 48 News out of Huntsville. We are sister stations. Brad knows North Alabama weather inside and out. So if you have family or friends up there, have them watch Brad. They'll be well taken care of. What about Andalusia? Same thing for you. Risk of strong storms. The timing down in Covington County, I think between 11 and midnight. Damaging wind and tornadoes are possible. You'll end up under a tornado watch. And let's drive this point home. If you live in a mobile home, you need to think long and hard about being in a different place tomorrow night, even if there's no tornado threat, quite frankly. If I were you and I lived in a mobile home, I would be working tomorrow to maybe think about spending the night somewhere else. If you have a family member or a friend, and it's easy to do. Now, don't go spend money. But if you have a family member or a friend that you could stay with, that would be the optimal idea here. What are the chances of a strong tornado in East Alabama? I think those are a little lower in that part of the state. Not zero, but a little lower. You know, if I'd had one of my Diet Sunkist, I wouldn't have had the hiccups earlier. So that's my bad. Jolene says, I'm not going to lie, I'm scared. Jolene, I do not want you scared. The reality is, even on a day like this where we've got kind of a higher end risk, severe weather, tornadoes are small. Counties are huge. The state of Alabama is huge. The odds of you getting hit by a tornado are tiny. You have multiple reliable ways of getting weather warnings, and you know where to go ahead of time. You're going to be just fine. Don't worry about this. We do all the worrying. Let us do the work on this. We will do the worrying. We will do the work. Just pay attention is all we're asking of you. Pay attention, be ready to move. What are the chances of strong tornadoes in far east Alabama? Are there limiting factors involved? Yes, Russell, the instability. There's not a lot of instability in this setup. If there was, we'd have a huge tornado outbreak. So thank goodness. Could southwest Alabama go high risk from the SBC? Michael, yes, I think it could. It's possible. I think they'll stick with moderate with the midnight update, but if it all starts breaking loose tomorrow in Mississippi, you can see an upgrade. Emily, so it is a relatively short time of concern, more or less. Should I stay out of my mobile home all day tomorrow in Elmore County? No, I don't think you should. It will be windy tomorrow and then get really windy tomorrow night. The mobile home thing, again, this is just if it was me. Everyone makes their own choices. I wouldn't be, I would try to not be in a mobile home tomorrow night, asleep. Tornado chance in Notasulga? Vicky, yes. How does Alex City look? Well, same as everybody else. Wind damage and isolated tornadoes. Jeremy asked, what about Rochester? There's a guy up there named Eric Snidel. He'll take excellent care of you. What about Tallahassee? What about up? Here we go with the whatabouts. The bane of my existence. The question I don't know how to answer for you. The timing's on the screen. So there's your county by county. The threat is for damaging wind and tornadoes. That threat exists across the state. Every square inch of Alabama has at least some risk. It's highest in west and southwest Alabama, but everybody needs to be paying attention to the weather. Again, to remind you, there is another concern of mine, and that's for the risk of really strong winds ahead of the storms tomorrow. This is going to catch a lot of people off guard that aren't paying attention. So 30 to 45 mile per hour wind gust away from storms tomorrow during the daytime when the sun is out. That's strong enough to create isolated power outages and some trees down in spots. So advice, do not park your car underneath a big tree at any point tomorrow. Bad idea. Playing with fire, right? Secure loose objects around your home. You know the drill there. Pool float, seat cushion, things like that. I saw a question about instability. Instability is the limiting factor in this, but I think there's enough forcing to where it won't matter. Erica, I didn't see the rest of your question. I just saw what about the tornado threat part. The rest of these specific location questions, there's the county by county rundown. The risk exists everywhere. Here's the timing. Seth asked, any scenarios to where this weakens and is not as strong? Sure, yeah, that's always a chance. If the storms outrun the instability entirely, maybe we get lucky that way. So there's always a chance. Tornado chances in Selma, they are present. Yes, we have them. Need to be weather aware. Again, everyone asking about your specific community, it's right there on the screen. Helen says, what about slap out? That's our new joke. We love that. It's right there on the screen. It literally, just look. READ, read. The truth will set you free. Caitlin says, y'all, what about this man to death? Caitlin, they kind of do, but it comes from a good place, and I really am trying to help them. Patrick says, y'all don't make Josh go Will Smith on you. Whoa. Well, you don't have to worry about that. We're good there. Josh will... That's funny, Diana. That's a good question. Tracy asked, will storm shelters open tomorrow? Call your local emergency management agency. Each county has an EMA. Call them and ask them. They're in charge of that, and the answer is different from county to county. So Matt Ben's coming through with a strong question there. Sissy Young, no television will be depending on Facebook and WSFA weather for warnings. Please, Sissy, do not depend on Facebook for severe weather warnings. Facebook makes it really hard for that to happen. Get our weather app. Also, if you have a smart TV, you can watch on the smart TV. You can also watch our live coverage on our weather app. Alexis, if you don't have another place to go, find a business the closest business near you that is always open. would be a good choice. Does it weaken a little in East Alabama? A little, but not much. Panama City, storms on the way there too. Risk is a little lower. All right, we are out of time. The news at 10 starts in 10 seconds. And yes, Amy, I will be on Facebook Live. We'll do another Facebook Live in the morning, and we'll keep you ahead of this. We're going to wind this thing down. Head over to TV.